Here we go again! Welcome to another episode of the Comic Man Show, where we review Suicide Squad Task Force X. And here we go again. Another DC premiere, another divisive movie, and another opportunity for feckless critics to display their unprofessionalism. But let's get to the review first. Going forward, I've decided to try out a new format for my reviews. It's going to be 2 sections. Give a fuck and don't give a fuck. Let's begin. What a wonderful delight and treat and enjoyable time this movie was. I got everything that I expected out of this movie. Fun characters, good dynamics, Batman and Joker peppered in, and just this enjoyable time where the DC universe is expanded upon. And I just got such a smile on my face right from the very first scene, and where they start introducing all of the characters and providing, at times, substantial background on some of these characters with my definitive Batman, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck in some of these flashbacks looking stunning and badass as ever. So immediately I was hooked by these introductory scenes to all of the characters and just seeing how the DC universe, that's something that I and a lot of the fans have been dreaming about to see on the big screen, just come to life, to expand. For us to be thrown into this rich universe was very emotional indeed. So let's start with the squad, which was the main attraction. We'll start with Deadshot, Will Smith, Floyd Lawton, and he really brought his A game to this. I've been a fan of Will Smith's for over 20 years. I've loved everything that he's done, including After Earth, and here he did not disappoint. He brought a great mixture of charisma, charm, deadliness, and heart to his role of Deadshot, where we see some of those emotional beats of him just caring and pining over his daughter. It was actually a heartbreaking scene where he's fighting Batman and his daughter steps in front of his gun to prevent him from doing something else that's bad. And to the end of the movie where he has to leave his daughter again. So, and that's the other surprising thing about this movie. It really brought a warmth, heart, and emotion to it, and really has that, where you see it in most of the background for these characters, especially El Diablo's, where, you know, he has more of a tragic past. He recklessly killed his family, and he finds himself belonging to another family with the squad, which then makes the decision for him to sacrifice himself easier because he's doing it for his family in the climax, in order to stop the big bad. Other members of Suicide Squad, Captain Boomerang, also a treat to watch, the angry Aussie. I liked, anytime he was on screen, I enjoyed it. He brought the humor, he brought this almost filthiness to him. He was more of a coward, which is true to the comics, where like the first sign of trouble, or the first opportunity, he was looking to cut and run. And I like the way that he fought with his boomerangs, throwing them around, using them to slice up those generic bad guy armies, which we'll get to later. Same with Killer Croc. I loved how they embraced the Killer Croc moniker and how earnest they were about it. They didn't try to half-ass it, just have like a big guy with some skin pigmentation, and they just called him Killer Croc. They went all in, from the aesthetic to the sharp claws and fangs, to the way Killer Croc moved, to the way he fought, to even what he ate, which is goats and stuff. So all just great, and it was just a DC fan's wet dream to see all of these characters. Other ones like Katana, I do wish she had more screen time, but whenever she was on, she's a badass, stoic, no nonsense, and some funny parts as well, like when she's introduced and Harley tries to shake her hand, and then she draws the katana. She says, "Okay, do I kill them all now?" That got a huge laugh out of me. Other ones like Enchantress, I actually enjoyed her, maybe, and I'm sure like others didn't. I liked her movements, like in the climax when she was building that her magic machine. And because maybe the actress who plays her is a model, and so she's mastered her body and her movements and how to get the best effect out of them. So to me, it all worked. Amanda Waller, what a bitch. Stone cold, solid gold bitch. Directly taken from the comics too. Will just do anything for the mission, regardless of anyone else, whether it be from her own team. And just the way she manipulates everyone, to the way she dispatches others. And even in the comics, Batman steers clear from her, so that should tell you the infamy of Amanda Waller, and they did her justice in this movie. It was near perfect. The other main attraction, of course, Harley Quinn. And wow, what a great job. This is the Harley Quinn that I've seen in the Batman the Animated Series, as well in the comics, and Margot Robbie, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, she brought her to life. A perfect blend of crazy, dangerous, sex appeal, psychoanalysis, and just insanity and this instability. And it's just, she made you care for her, and yet at the same time be repulsed by her, because she's not a role model, she's not a hero, she's a murdering psychopath. Which leads me to her romance with the Joker. And I don't know why, but I thought it was really sweet and really endearing how they both just cared about each other and were just seeking one another. It was a very dysfunctional relationship and abusive, but here you can even tell that Joker really loves her. And even in the comics, yes, he's very abusive towards her, but there's a reason why he has not killed her, dispatched of her, or gotten rid of her, because he does care about her as well. So you see that aspect of both of them just caring about one another, and in a dysfunctional and crazy way, and it really pays off. The soundtrack was awesome. Every song just fit in perfectly. It went very well with the movie. I didn't have any problems with it. I liked how when they were introducing the different characters, they had different songs, and it was just a treat for the ears. And also, another treat was all the cameos and Easter eggs. This was, once again, I repeat, a DC fan's wet dream. From hearkening to Superman's death and showing the funeral scenes in the beginning, to Flash's cameo, to multiple mentions of Batman and seeing Batman. And it's just very emotional for me to just watch this whole comic universe that I've loved my whole life be brought to life on the big screen. And lastly, let's talk about that mid-credit scene with Bruce Wayne just looking awesome as ever, getting intel from Amanda Waller in exchange for his protection, because Amanda Waller is in a lot of trouble, like after that Midway City incident fiasco, where it was all really like her fault. So just trading information, getting information on the metahumans that he has to track down to assemble the Justice League. So there was a lot to enjoy and love about this movie. And now for the other side of it. Let's start with the editing. Now the editing was very smooth, but the pacing at times was very fast, and there were certain scenes where I wish that the movie spent more time into it, where it gave more breathing room so I could enjoy these scenes more with these characters. So it was a detriment in that respect, but the editing still flowed smoothly, and the whole movie itself was paced like very fast, which worked for it, but for some scenes it worked against it. Speaking of editing, the Joker, and I feel really bad for Jared Leto here because we heard and read all these stories of his preparation for his role as the Joker, and yet we barely have enough screen time. We barely have him in the movie. My episode has more screen time of the Joker than the actual Suicide Squad episode. So I feel really bad for him because there were a lot of footage from the trailers, a lot of iconic lines from the trailers that we didn't get to see. So I can't even form a well-informed opinion of this Joker because he just simply wasn't on screen enough for me to compare him to other Jokers or to form an opinion whether he was good or bad. I will say this, he showed a lot of promise and it was a good teaser. Speaking of cuts, all of these cuts in general from the trailer. So I've watched these trailers and there were a lot of scenes and shots that I was looking forward to seeing in the movie, which we didn't get to see. Like the beginning of the bar scene of Harley pouring drinks for everyone. Some more scenes of Katana, like her absorbing the soul in her Soul Taker sword and more action from her. And some other iconic shots from the trailers, such as Harley Quinn using her bat as a gun and going like that. So there was a lot of that stuff missing, which at times was jarring because I was looking forward to these shots in these scenes, and when we didn't get them, it would at times take me out of the movie and I would scratch my head and say, like that's funny. How come that wasn't in there? And just going back to the Joker again, it is a head scratcher because they heavily promoted him in the marketing because they know the general audience wants to see the Joker. So it is mind-blowing why they would edit and cut so many of his scenes out because the audience wants that and yet you barely give him enough screen time. Maybe it wasn't to overshadow the rest of the squad, but I think it would have just added to the enjoyment of the movie and to the appeal of the movie. Another thing that was appealing or left me hot and cold were the action sequences. They were mediocre to good, but they never reached my expectations. They never hit that top gear and become adrenaline pumping. And in the third act especially, where they're fighting the big bad, it was fine, but it was a little bit CGI heavy, which, I don't mind. And after Diablo and Incubus, Enchantress's brother, they perish. And after the heart was cut out of the Enchantress, I thought that was it. And I was very disappointed, but much to my delight, they ended up having a sword fight. Her versus the entire squad, which is a personal preference. I enjoy sword fights on screen, so I didn't mind it. I actually enjoyed it, but I can see how other people wouldn't enjoy it. Another thing I didn't mind was the simple and streamlined story. It was a lot less complex and convoluted from other comic book storylines that we've gotten in movies in the past. This worked for me. It was very straightforward. Even the subplot was very simple and straightforward, but I can understand why this wouldn't work for others. Another thing that didn't really work for me was the romance between Rick Flag and June Moon. Rick Flag was really boring in my opinion. There were times where he showed some emotion, but it was just a general, just standard soldier. Him and some of the other actors who were like his buddy soldiers. And it just felt like his romance with Dr. June Moon was forced, and that was like the forced emotional beat that they tried to get out of the audience, which didn't work. The Harley and Joker romance definitely worked. This one did not work. And lastly, a word on those feckless critics. Here we go again. And I'm so glad to see that Suicide Squad has the same rating as Batman vs. Superman on Rotten Tomatoes, the aggregate score. Because it just shows you still have not broken out of your mold of convention. Because they gave you Suicide Squad is such a different movie from Batman vs. Superman for you all to come in with the same mindset, same expectations, same beliefs in what a comic book movie should be, even though they gave you something tonally, visually, story-wise, something very different. And for you all to rate it the same just proves like how you have this agenda. When I say agenda, I don't mean this mass conspiracy. I mean individually, you guys just want a certain type of comic book movie, an action comedy, and if there's anything else, anything that runs counter to that, you focus on the flaws and you judge it very, very unfairly, and you expose yourselves in the process. And how unprofessional of some of you to just negate this movie and give it bad reviews because it's not a Marvel movie. You know, like some dipshit, one of these critics saying, sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy is better, fail. Another dipshit, a professional one from Rolling Stone, you're calling the director names, saying it was a limp dick. You're a limp dick, okay? At least David Ayer, he had the balls to actually write out and produce something and put it out for millions to see and put himself out there. What the hell do you do? Just critique his work and call him a limp dick. You're a limp dick. And then there were other ones with just a hyperbole is amazing, calling it the biggest disappointment, like, of all time, like a crime against entertainment. I have to ask, what movie did you guys watch? You stupid, dumbass critics. Because it's not the same movie that I watched, and guess what? It's not the same movie that the general audience watched, because the movie currently is making tons of money, is getting great word of mouth in spite of you. How does that make you guys feel? That you have almost zero impact on the audience's expectations and their desires and their willingness to go see a movie if they're interested in it. Almost zero impact. A poll was taken. You have about 4% impact on the general audience. You might as well be zero. So in closing, I very much recommend this movie. The characters alone are worth the price of admission. And you get invested in them, and it leaves you wanting more and wanting to see a sequel. Yes, it is disappointing that the Joker isn't in this movie more, but it really whets your appetite for the solo Batman movie, where the Joker will be heavily featured. So until next time, this is the Comic Man signing off.